Every 10 years, the census counts everyone living in the United States. It's written in the Constitution. The 2020 census will be mailed to residents and is meant to count everyone living at each address on April 1st. The numbers we count determine how much money we get from the federal government to fund schools, fire stations, health programs, transportation, and more. The Census Bureau is required by law to protect any personal information collected. We need our entire Scranton community to step up to educate our friends, family, and neighbors about the census. Check out our Facebook page, Mayor of Scranton, or call 570-348-4100 to learn how you can help.
Okay, ready? Yeah. Call this public meeting to order. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away recently in our community. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. McAnder. Present. Dr. Rothschild.
Here.
Mr. Donohue.
Here.
Mr. Garland.
Here. Mrs. Reed, please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A Controllers Report for month ending January 31, 2020. 3B Minutes of the Scranton Firefighters Pension Commission meeting held January 15, 2020. 3C Minutes of the Non-Uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held January 15, 2020. 3D Minutes of the Scranton Police Pension Commission meeting held January 15, 2020. 3E Minutes of the Composite Pension Board meeting held January 15, 2020. 3F Agenda for the Non-Uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held February 19, 2020. 3G Agenda for the City Planning Commission meeting to be held February 26, 2020. 3H Minutes of the Scranton Sewer Authority Board of Directors meeting held January 16, 2020. 3I Correspondence received from Ufberg and Associates LLP dated February 21, 2020 regarding labor solicitor disclosures by current contractor.
Thank you. Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time? Okay, I have two. First announcement, an executive session was held this evening prior to our meeting to discuss a matter of litigation, and I'd like to turn it over to Solicitor Hayes just to take a moment to inform the public on the budget, the preliminary budget from the fee agreement for the Act 511 case.
Thank you, Councilman Gaughton. Earlier today, we held an executive session. Council held an executive session for the exclusive purpose of meeting with representatives from Stevens and Lee to obtain an update with regard to the appeal that they are pursuing on behalf of the city with both the Commonwealth Court and, as of today, with the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. They reported to us that a petition for extraordinary jurisdiction has been filed with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, I believe today. We also reviewed a preliminary budget with representatives from Stevens and Lee. Issues and questions were raised regarding the preliminary budget, and they have agreed to provide us with additional information, which will be provided to the public when it's finalized. But again, the executive session was held for the exclusive purpose of obtaining a litigation update.
Thank you. The last announcement I'd like to make is similar to last week. I'd just like to briefly note the new timing device that has been installed at the podium for the purpose of keeping track of public participation time at our meetings. Speakers will continue to have 5 minutes to address City Council. The yellow light will blink at the podium continuously when 2 minutes of time remain. At 1 minute of time remaining, the yellow light will stay fixed, and then the red light will indicate the 5-minute time limit has been reached. The timing device provides an opportunity for speakers to finish their thoughts without the interruption of the bell, as was previously mentioned. And that is all I have for announcements. Mrs. Reed?
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Thank you. The first speaker tonight is the Honorable Mayor Paige Cognetti.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thanks, you guys, for coming tonight. I just have a few announcements that I wanted to make. So our day of action, the Mayor's Day of Action, is this coming Saturday, February 29th. It's 10 a.m. right here at City Hall. We are going to be training volunteers to be what we're calling census ambassadors, to go out into the community and educate people not only about the census, why it's important, how to fill it out, but also that it's safe to do so. Not only is their information, their personal information safe, but also in terms of immigration enforcement, their information is safe. The federal government cannot use information given at the census to then go and enforce any sort of immigration laws. So that is important. That is something that is really difficult across the nation for us to get across. So we're trying to, as a city, as a volunteer base in the city, supplement the efforts of the federal workers to answer the census more completely than we did in 2010. So that's on Saturday. Again, it's the first of many, many efforts, but we're looking for volunteers to come and get trained up. We have a OECD staff, and Megan from my office went to a training in Allentown last week or the week before to get trained up and get a lot of materials that the state provided for us to then be able to hand out and use to educate. So that's on Saturday, and we're very excited about that. I think you all know, and I know, Kyle, you've been really involved in this effort for a long time. It takes every corner of the community, and it takes us all to be really, really going out and focusing on this for the next few months. So I'm excited about Saturday to kick that off. Thursday, March 5th, at 1 o'clock at the Keystone Diner in Westside, we'll be doing the first Engage with Paige coffee. Anyone from the community can come and ask questions. It's basically a town hall, but we're doing it at a diner, so it's a little more informal, a little bit more relaxed atmosphere. But we'll be doing a coffee like that every month. Another piece is on Thursday at 2 o'clock, I believe. So we sent a press release yesterday. Thursday at 2 o'clock, I'll be doing a press briefing in the governor's room just to update the press on what we've been up to in the first couple of months and what our administration's goals are. So again, the first of many briefings like that. The other piece is the flag design contest. So we've received about a dozen designs so far. The submissions are due March 20th. I wanted to pass this out to you all so that you can see kind of the history of it a little bit. Just a second. So it's a design contest that an intern in our office is running. It's not something that I'm working on a daily basis. And I wanted to show on this piece of paper, and any of you, if I could give you in the audience. So in 1907, there was no flag for Scranton until 1907. The then mayor, the city ran a design contest. I believe the winner received $20, which in 1907 was pretty good. There's no remuneration for this contest, nor was there one in 1966 when they ran a contest again. So you can see in 1907 there was a coal breaker, smokestacks, and train design that was emblematic of the industry that was actually still thriving at the time. In 1966, the design that they came up with was a fern, I believe, to symbolize the past, concentric circles to represent transportation, and an atomic symbol to represent the future. So I think in 1966 that those things maybe made sense, but I think in 2020 we're all looking to the future. I know everybody on council here, ran on a platform of looking towards the future, and we are hoping that by having this design contest, it's something we can do to unify the community around looking forward. So we're taking all those submissions, closing them on March 20th, and the goal is to raise the new flag on April 23rd, which is the anniversary of the incorporation of the city. So that's the process there. We're excited about it. It's meant to be something fun and something that it really can bring us together, and it's not something that is costing taxpayer money. We're not going to be putting the flag on any vehicles at DPW, for example, that already have symbols. We're not going to be doing that. To the extent that we get new vehicles, we may want to put the new symbol on those, but we're not going to be going back and spending money there. By the same token, there are a lot of things in the city that have, sorry, my time is up. There are a lot of things in the city that do have former mayor's names. We're going to take those off, but we're not going to be adding my name to the DPW trucks, for example. That's that kind of tradition of the mayor putting their name on a lot of things, and it is not something that I want to continue during my administration. So just wanted to clarify that a little bit, and happy to take any questions that you have.
Sure. Does any council members have any questions for the mayor?
I just have a couple quick ones. Was the contract with Barry Isett and Associates for the licensing inspections review signed yet?
Yeah, I believe it is. I do believe it is signed. I think I wasn't part of that piece of it, but I know we met with them last week to begin the engagement. So I do think that Mr. Sheridan signed that, and we're set to go and we had our initial meeting, and they'll be meeting with LIPS very, very soon, which I'm excited about, and happy to brief you guys on that. That initial meeting was kind of the first one, but we can be very much in touch about that process.
Yeah, because I think they wanted to go through a cycle of each season to get a sense. So there was. And then just have we made any progress? Has the city made any progress on hiring an HR director yet?
We are still looking for applicants. We have not been successful so far. So if anyone knows of anybody that would like to come and be the HR director, that is something that we are still looking for. I was on the phone a lot about that today. It's something we really, really need to get going on, and so we're hoping that we'll get the right person very soon. It's been a tough one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I don't have any questions. Thank you again, Mayor, for coming.
Of course.
And look forward to working with you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thank you. Have a nice night. Les
Being
Spindler?
Council, Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner. Councilman Gahan, last week I was watching the meeting, and you said about the garbage fee being knocked down to $250 by Mayor Evans. You said, and I quote you said it was a half-cocked idea. Well, you're partially at fault for that half-cocked idea. You, Councilman Donahue, Councilman Rogan, and former Councilman Perry put Mayor Evans in as mayor. When I said right away, if you went into the interview process with an open mind, which I know you didn't, then maybe we wouldn't have that problem. There were more qualified candidates that interviewed for the mayor's position than Wayne Evans. And that's all I'm going to say on that. I was going to come up here and speak against the flag, but since the mayor said it's not going to cost us any money, then I'm all for it. If it doesn't cost us money, anything that doesn't cost us money, I'm all for it. So I hope they have good luck, and I hope it's a nice flag. But I do have to mention something. A gentleman called Talkback 16 last Wednesday, and I love the idea he had. I can't take credit for this, but I wish I did. But he said the flag should have a hand on it taking money, because that's all the city ever does to the citizens of the city is take money. Moving on, got my recycle schedule in the mail. I think it's going to be very helpful. And I think it's a great idea, and it was very well done. So I hope everybody goes by that. And it's a good idea. Lastly, anybody that watches these meetings knows I've talked about this subject for many years, 14 to be exact, when my dog was attacked by two pit bulls 14 years ago. I've been coming to every council asking for dangerous dog legislation, and nothing has been done. I presented paperwork that I've researched, I printed out things, and I presented to the last council. Nothing's been done. Other cities do it. I don't know why we can't. For example, I was told by one council solicitor years ago that you can't be breed specific. Well, in St. George's County, Maryland, they're breed specific. Pit bulls are banned in St. George's County, Maryland. So they're breed specific. That's a precedent being set right there. In Pittsburgh, our own state, if you have a dog that's found to be dangerous, you have to have a 10-foot high fence and insurance against that dog. And I brought these before other councils, and I brought it before the last council. And nothing is ever done. And I'll repeat myself again. Maybe something will be done when some young child is ripped apart by a dangerous dog, like has been done in other areas. See it on the news all the time. And as I stated, I forget what it was, a few years ago, where it's a fact, where the pit bulls were responsible for 25 deaths in the United States. It was the most by any breed of dog. People say, oh, it's not the dog, it's the way they're brought up. I refuse to believe that because I researched it. Pit bulls is not a name that's known by the American Kennel Club. It's called an American Staffordshire Terrier. The reason they're called pit bulls is because they were bred to fight in pits in England. And they still have that fight in them. It's in their blood. I don't care how nice people say. My daughters argue with me. They say, oh, we have friends and they're so nice, but I would never trust one. I told a story here a couple of years ago about, it wasn't in this area, but it was in another state, where a family had a pit bull and went upstairs to a crib and killed their baby right in the crib. So that's all I'm going to say on that subject now. And see my time's running out, and I hope maybe this council will look into a better dangerous dog legislation, if I don't think we even have any. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Spindler. Next speaker is Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, city resident and taxpayer. Have you had any response from Rainey and Rainey about attending a public caucus?
We have not. When we do get a response, I will make that.
Yeah, my only
public.
suggestion is don't pay them another cent until they respond. Also, don't forget you have to publish in the legal notices a summary of the revenues and expenditures for that audit. With regard to the budget for Stevens and Lee, I don't know whether you discussed this in your caucus, but you are aware that in January, according to the controller's report, they were paid $20,850. Okay, so they have invoiced that and explained the services they provided, because I don't know what the upper limit on their budget's going to be, but almost $21,000 are already gone. So on the paper, a story that a group of police retirees are going to sue to bring back the reinstitution of their COLA increases, which basically the story broke just before the stock market broke. Yesterday it was over 1,000 points. I think the last I heard just before 4 p.m. was down another 842 points. And obviously the driving factor is fear that the coronavirus may become a global epidemic. It's starting to spread in Europe and in Asia, also in Africa apparently. So my point being is I think that the pension boards should be very conservative and see what's going to happen with the stock market and this coronavirus. Because if anything could push us into another recession, I think that would. Speaking of the coronavirus, who in the city is responsible for overseeing emergency plans in case we had a health emergency like that? Is it the chief of police as the safety director?
No, it's the fire chief under the court right administration. They deem the fire chief to be the emergency management coordinator, and that's held over to this new administration. So it is Al Lucas.
Yeah, I hope that there's some thought given to that in the eventuality that that might happen. I asked the county commissioners, and they are already coordinating with PEMA, the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, just in case it affects the Commonwealth. But if it happens, it could happen very quickly, and the city would need to be prepared as well. With regard to the flag, I too at first was nonplussed when I heard about the contest for a flag. But now that the mayor has explained what her intentions are and it will not cost the city any money, I think it may be a very good idea in that we have so many problems the city is trying to address, both as city government and the school district and the county, that sometimes you've got to have something positive to look at every day. And I think this could be a positive thing. It's not going to cost the city money. I think it'd be a great thing to get all the high schools and elementary schools and involved in a contest, and maybe we could get some business to offer $100 savings bond or something to the winner. But I think this could be a good thing. So I'll support her. Have you, as president of council, received from the BA's office the adjusted political contribution limits?
No, I have not yet, but
Kick
when we
their
do,
butts.
we have made them aware of it. We just
Yep.
have not received it yet.
Okay, put some teeth into that ordinance. And finally, I think a lot of people are very interested now the elections are over and the dust is starting to settle on a lot of issues. Where are we going to go with stormwater? I don't know about you, but I got my real estate bill and all my federal and state taxes are paid, and, Thursday afternoon, my real estate will be paid, and I always wonder what's going to happen with the stormwater thing, That's a big shoe that's going to drop sooner or later. You can only kick that can down the road so long before you're going to have to address it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for the sign-in sheet. Would anyone else like to address City Council?
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson. Hey, with that, I almost feel like I'm being impeached here.
We're going to install the trap door next week, Mr. Dobson, so it's...
All right. Last week, we mentioned once again about adding the trash fee to the land and tax bill. Well, I just got my tax bill in the mail for my separate property, which is unoccupied by a structure, and it's $700 for 40 by 140 feet, thanks to all of the former increases. And another $250 will probably push it to somewhere around $1,000 a year. So I'm asking for your consideration on that. And it's probably not possible to tax one property and not the other, irregardless of if it's a property. You probably have to be taxed. And by the way, I am still for universal removal. I don't need somebody else's trash on my lawn, especially if I have to pay to throw someday. I paid my Comcast bill Sunday, and it's been raised from about $196 somewhere around autumn to $260 a month for Xfinity. Now I can call China, I can call India, I can call all over, but all I'm doing right now, I don't have anybody to talk to there. So presumably I'm paying someone else's bill. And I think it's time that the city steps in and starts regulating Comcast and telling them it's time to cut with the increases. It's totally ridiculous. If I bought more of something or another, I had a restaurant and I bought 2 cases of tomatoes on Monday, and they were really good tomatoes and everybody loved them. And you sold me 10 cases the next Monday, you know, I'd probably get a better, but the longer you're with Comcast, the worse price you get. And a mention was on school lunches. Well, here's my idea. Every child should have an offer of an orange juice and maybe a granola bar on the way in. And they should also have free lunches because you cannot learn on an empty stomach. I know that myself because I teach myself constantly out of all kinds of books. And once again, we're 20 million short on the state funding for schools, 36% tax exempt, and 10% do not pay. So that's already 54% of the people are paying for the whole enchilada. And on walkability downtown, yes, we need walkability. If you turn on the Lackawanna Avenue at a certain time of day from Wyoming Avenue, the sun is right above the mall, and you cannot see people crossing the street. And that's unacceptable, but what we don't need is bicycles in the middle at 3:30 or 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon. That's impossible. It could be, it could land you in a world of hurt if you hit somebody. And only have a short time to call attention to this, but our Chamber of Commerce has been building all kinds of workplaces out along the industrial highway above Throop and Jessup, and we moved pretty much all of the mall traffic up to Montage, and I'm sorry to say that that's environmentally unsound because we have no place to work in Scranton and no place to buy anything significantly. And if you hop in your car, you're degrading the environment. And you have to have a car at low wages. So $8 an hour don't cut it to keep a roof over your head and pay for a car and everything else. And that's some of what's being paid. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Anyone else like to address council?
Tom Coyne, just a quick question for you. With the 904 performance grants for the trash, I just have a quick question on whether or not the city recycling centers, there are a number of different places that recycle metal and or different products in the city, whether or not the city has reached out to them and whether or not any of these organizations are cooperating in giving the city information upon tonnage of recyclables that they've collected from city residents so that the city can commingle them with the 904 grant to receive more money back from the state. Since anything recycled, including from not just the recycling center, but say the scrap yards over on West Side, any of the tonnage from there that has been recycled, if we get receipt of they've recycled X number, the city could therefore get grant money from that. Are any of them cooperating? Do we know any?
You know, off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but we can certainly reach out to our recycling coordinator and Joyce Atala, who is in charge of our recycling program. They would probably be able to provide an answer fairly quickly. So we could have that for you next week.
That's fantastic. That was part of the trash, I guess it was a trash audit done about 8 or 10 years ago on how to streamline the city's trash operations, and part of it was the grant money of going out and trying to solicit these independent recyclers just to get figures, nothing else but figures for them, so that that money could be recuperated. I was wondering if it was ever followed through. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address council?
Marie Schumacher. Speaking of the landfill, I want to know, do we have a durable forever contract with Keystone Landfill? Which, that always gets me. Saying landfill when they're building a mountain is just,
Yeah, I believe we have a lifetime
Oxymoron.
contract that was signed under Mayor Connors for the tipping fee, correct, Mrs. Reed? Because we looked into this when Mr. Coyne had asked us about the tipping fee. So I would say yes, I believe that we do have a lifetime contract.
well, I remember...
Setting the tipping fee at a certain rate.
I remember when we were talking a couple years ago about whether or not Alliance could take our trash if something happened to Keystone Landfill, and the answer was yes. So I don't know why we don't seek a bid from Alliance to see if we could get a better deal. Also, Joan brought up the audit, and is there no way that we could possibly have a master calendar of when the city is supposed to dump data to Kohansky so that could be watched throughout the year as it progresses, instead of waiting till the end and asking and asking and asking?
So that's one of the issues that came up in the meetings that we've had with Kohansky, and we're going to be provided monthly updates as the process moves along. And we'll certainly share that with the public.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, Anna, I would like to know if you would be willing to ask the, I guess it would be the pension board, the composite board, whether or not they could give at least a quarterly report on what level our pension is at, because it's so closely tied to the 511, well, not 511 actually, but to our, yeah, just the amount we have to pay.
Yeah. I don't know, what did you say, quarterly or monthly?
Yeah.
I don't know that they do it quarterly. I think they do it annually. They provide a report. Sometimes we'll see it in the backup here, of what the funding percentage is. Is that what you're looking for?
Essentially, well, I would like a better definition, really, of the levels 2 and 3, and it's, again, how much that, or how long we can continue to even petition for that tripling of the LST tax. It should have ended before was it Act 55 a couple years ago? Mm-hmm. That if we are, because to me, it's got a negative impact. We can control whether or not we can keep taking money from outsiders just by not funding the pension the way we should. So I would really like to see that on a more steady basis. Mm-hmm. Also, a while back, I had requested the ordinance or resolution that was passed by the Scranton City Council authorizing the award for the demolition and fill-in of the 2 pools at Novembrino Pool. The answer that I got back was they could not provide that. It was a right to know. They could not provide an answer to that because there is nothing in the city to support that. So why did that happen?
I don't know the answer to that question because obviously we're not overseeing that project. That would be a combination of the administration, and I believe there's OECD funds in there as well.
Was that not in our capital budget?
That's what I just said. It was city funds and OECD funds, I believe.
Well,
But I mean, I don't know the answer to that question, and I would assume they would bid it out, but I don't know the answer to that question.
well, it would be nice to know. Also, on 5B tonight, I looked through it rather quickly. Can you tell me what the period of performance is? When will that end?
Yeah, you mean in terms of the remediation?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a question that actually came up, and we're going to inquire about that before final passage.
Okay, and I am somewhat disappointed that an emergency bill is still not settled and it's being billed even, which I think is pretty cheeky, but when you don't have a contract, but
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council? Mrs.
Fifth
Reed?
order, 5A motions.
Councilman McAndrew, any motions or comments tonight?
Yes, I do. The first being, concern citizen came to me with regards to Griffin bullet form. I'd like to give you a copy. Here's a copy, Lori. Thank you. I'm sorry, so I didn't have my mic on. So a concerned citizen came to me with regards to Griffin Pond and how we give them money, and they gave this to me in bullet form. I would like to just actually read the bullets that I received, and maybe you can seek clarification for me and the rest of the city. So my understanding is, and I do know that we voted on this. So Griffin Pond receives a monetary payment from the city of Scranton annually. Last payment made was late January, early February. The payment was $63,000. Okay? The city of Scranton is the only municipal that pays Griffin Pond on an annual basis. Scranton Animal Control was told on multiple occasions by Griffin Pond that they will not accept cats from them or will tell them that they can only accept one or two. This leaves Animal Control with no option but to leave friendly strays on the streets or to put abandoned family pets, meaning cats, on the street unless a local rescue steps up and takes them. Last July, Animal Control removed 57 cats from a hoarding situation in Scranton. Griffin Pond only took 20. Local rescues took the rest. Street Cats is located in the Naog Zoo, took the majority with 34. Griffin Pond gets money from the city of Scranton, over $102,000 last year. Street Cats, which I just mentioned, that operates out of Naog, receives no funding. It's 100% volunteer and runs on donations, fundraising, and grants. Another bullet point is Griffin Pond will not accept feral cats, so these cats are TNR'd, which means trapped, neutered, and returned, which costs the city additional money. Griffin Pond will accept friendly dogs, but not aggressive ones. This leaves Animal Control with very few options in these instances. So once again, if you could just please put this in form of a letter and just to get clarification or justification of, the whys or the why nots or rationale as to the money we give them. Thank you. Secondly, I would like to congratulate the Lady Invaders of West Scranton High School on their District 2 Class 5 semifinal win this last week against North Pocono, and wish them luck this Saturday for the division championship game against Abington. I would also like to congratulate the Scranton High Night boys on their District 2 Class 5 semifinal win last week, and wish them luck this Saturday against the Wilkes-Barre Wolfpack for the District 2 championship. I hope both of them bring it home. And also to answer Mr. Thompson, you referred twice last week and this week with regards to free meals for students in the Scranton School District. I just want to clarify that every child in the Scranton School District receives a free breakfast and a free lunch. Okay? Thank you. That is all I have.
Thank you. Dr. Rothschild, any motions or comments?
Yes, I have a few comments. First, I'd like to just provide an update on my work with regards to the complaint about the pool on Caphouse Avenue. I did meet with the OECD director yesterday, and we had a great conversation about the different possibilities of what we could do with that space. And it appears that there may be some grant possibilities that would be appropriate for it. But first, prior to applying for any of the applicable grants, we would need to have a better sense of what we'd like to do with it and what the community needs are in that neighborhood. So I'll be working with them to either put together a survey or a canvas of that neighborhood, neighbors who are close to the pool, and then we can make a better determination on the best use for that space. And I did receive a couple of emails about it with some suggestions from residents already, and I think they're great, but we do need to hear back from more people to have a better general sense. And I've mentioned in a few meetings that I've been really interested in working together with our local colleges and universities. On Friday, I did have a tour over at Lackawanna College, and I really received a lot of great information about the school, the different programs that they've added over the years, how they've really made progress there, and ways that they are giving back to the community, and that they're many of their graduates are staying here in Scranton, and so I was very pleased to hear that and to have the opportunity to visit their different buildings and hear about the work that they're doing over there. And I plan on visiting all of our local colleges because I think it's been very useful so far. I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Donahue, any motions or comments?
Yeah, just quickly, Ms. Reed, would we be able to send a request for, I got a complaint about a light being out on a pole in Naog Place. It's a little walkway, but there actually are houses off Linden Street. So I'll pass along they gave me the pole number, so I'll give you that information. And also too, at the South Side neighborhood meeting last week, I got a complaint about 725 Pittston Ave. I believe we put in a request to licensing and inspections about that, I think in April or May last year. So we'd be able to follow up on that. And I do have photos too of what it currently looks like, if we could figure out a way to pass those along. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Donahue. Just a few things. Number one, in terms of Ms. Hodowanitz brought up the coronavirus, we did actually, one speaker, Mr. Coyne, brought this up a couple weeks ago, and the emergency management coordinator, who's the acting fire chief, Al Lucas, he actually did respond to us with some information, and he does coordinate with the different governmental bodies, the county, so they are aware of it. And if anything comes down from the World Health Organization, the city is aware, and they're going to be prepared for that. So that takes care of that. In terms of Mr. Spindler's comments about the dangerous dog legislation, I don't necessarily disagree with what you said. I don't know in terms of banning a specific breed of dog in the city. I don't know if that's possible, but Solicitor Hayes, when you have time, can you research maybe what other cities do, and if that is feasible for the city to look into? I would appreciate that. In terms of the GPS, putting GPS on city vehicles, I had asked about that last week, and we were informed by the administration that they are still exploring that option. And when there is an update to be provided, they will provide council and the public that update. Mrs. Reed, this is one thing that I was actually thinking about earlier today. I think last year council had passed a contract with the firm to conduct an audit of this, all city utilities, and the rationale at that time was it was supposed to potentially save the city some money. So if you can get together with the administration and see if we can get an update on that contract and where they are with that, I would appreciate it. Also, I failed to bring this up when the mayor was here. It just totally slipped my mind. But one of the things that I do plan on bringing up with the mayor, and I don't know if it will be able to be accomplished this year, but it's something I've brought up the last few years, and I don't want to say it's fallen on deaf ears, but it just never got off the ground, is our street sweeping program. We did acquire I believe, one new street sweeper. I think we have a total of maybe 2 or 3 now that sweep the streets in the city. We do usually receive a schedule of where the sweepers are going to be throughout the city. My only gripe the past few years has been there should be a plan in place of alternate side of the street parking because it defeats the purpose of cleaning the streets if you have cars lined up on each side of the block. I was told in the past by previous administrations that it can't be done and it would be labor intensive. I disagree with that. Other cities do it and they do it successfully. if we're going to be, make a commitment to make sure our neighborhoods are clean, then we're going to want to put a program in place to let people know when the sweeper is coming around so that they can move their cars. So I would like to, I am going to talk to the mayor about that, make sure it's on her radar, and maybe, that could be something that could be done this spring or hopefully next spring. Mrs. Reed, I'd like you to send a letter on my behalf to the administration about the disclosures by current contractors and vendors. This is something that we're going to talk about in a minute with the Uffberg labor contract, and they did reply to our request. The issue that I raised, that was not filled out, but it was not in, the reason they didn't fill it out was it was not in the bid package. It was not in the RFQ or RFP. So what I would like to request from the administration is that moving forward, that disclosure, I believe it was attachment E, is attached to every bid package. It just makes it fair for everyone, and then council's not going back and asking these firms to fill something out that was not originally in the bid package. And I think in terms of transparency, it is good to know that information and to be out in the open about it. Also, Mrs. Reed, if you can get in contact with the DPW, or might be better served going to the business administrator, the sign program contract with KS Engineers. Mrs. Jeffries had a question about that. I was looking through the contract. In the memo that was provided by the former business administrator, he had explained that we were going for a multimodal transportation grant. We found out within the last week that we did not receive that multimodal transportation grant. So my question is, how did the city end up paying for that, for the KS Engineering contract? So I'd like to find that out if possible. And that is all I have this week. Thank you.
5B, for introduction of resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with AMO Environmental Decisions for environmental remediation of the future site of the downtown Pocket Park, 248 Wyoming Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, just want to take a minute to go through kind of where we have been over the last few years with this Pocket Park on Wyoming Avenue. So just to take everybody back for a moment, since I've been on council, and Councilman Donahue was also involved in this back in 2017 and 2018, this property was previously owned by RSM Properties, LLC. The city was involved in a lawsuit with them. September of 2017, the previous administration sought approval for the city to buy that property from RSM for $375,000 to settle the lawsuit, and for the city to use grants to pay for remediation and turn that property into a pocket park. Council at that time tabled the legislation. There was a lot of back and forth about whether it was a better idea to buy the lot and to turn it into a pocket park, or to market it so that somebody could put a building there and put it back on the tax rolls. Eventually, in December of 2017, we passed that legislation to buy the property back. We completed the purchase in January of 2018 with the recording of the deed. Scranton Tomorrow, at that time, received a $400,000 state grant to help convert the site into a pocket park. Throughout 2017, we passed more legislation in terms of getting grant money to remediate the property, and then in 2019, the State Department of Community and Economic Development announced the awarding of a $352,500 grant from the Industrial Sites Reuse Program to the city for remediation of the lot. This is a joint venture between the city and the county and Scranton Tomorrow, and all this legislation is doing, finally, after all these years, is awarding a contract to AMO to remediate this property. So I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of background, because it has been a few years since this has come up. So we're finally at the point where they're going to remediate the property. In terms of the timeline, as Ms. Schumacher had asked, that's a question that I also had and my colleagues had. So we asked Mrs. Reed to find out what the timeline is of the remediation. And that's all I have. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction of resolution accepting a $500 donation from Ms. Marie C. Benicki of Scranton, presented to the City of Scranton Police K-9 Unit.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
Yeah, I'd like to say something on the question. As Chairman of Public Safety, I think this is wonderful that Mrs. Benicki has donated $500 to the K-9 unit.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction of resolution, appointment of Karen A. DeSantis, 1105 Summit Point, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18508, to the Civil Service Commission, effective February 14, 2020. Ms. DeSantis' term will expire with the term of Mayor Paige G. Cognetti.
This time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution appointment of Elizabeth M. Garcia Esquire, 1135 Olive Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18510, to the Civil Service Commission, effective February 14, 2020. Attorney Garcia's term will expire with the term of Mayor Paige G. Cognetti.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
5E, I'm sorry. On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5F for introduction of resolution, appointment of Kevin Morgan, 213 North Van Buren Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18504, to the Civil Service Commission, effective February 14, 2020. Mr. Morgan's term will expire with the term of Mayor Paige G. Cognetti.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, no business at this time. Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 20, 2020, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a professional services contract with Ufberg and Associates, LLP, for labor counsel for the city of Scranton.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Yes, on the question. Last week I had raised two issues regarding this contract. So I'd like to ask Solicitor Hayes now to just run through those two issues, and I know you were in contact with Mr. Ufberg about them. So if you could give us an update.
And Councilman Gahn, the two issues, the first was related to the disclosures, correct? Okay, well, the disclosures have been requested by Ufberg and Associates. They were not included as a requirement as part of that bid package, but they did provide us with that information. That information has been posted as part of this agenda, so that issue has been addressed. The second issue that I believe you raised was the application of Section 307 of the Home Rule Charter as it pertains to this resolution and this appointment of Ufberg and Associates. It is my opinion that Section 307 of Scranton's Home Rule Charter does not prohibit Ufberg and Associates from being appointed as city's labor solicitor due to Attorney Mary Walsh Dempsey's employment with that law firm and her prior service as a member of City Council. Attorney Dempsey was appointed to council in August of 2019 and served in that position for approximately 5 months until her term expired on January 6, 2020. Attorney Dempsey was not elected to council, and as part of Resolution Number 20, Attorney Dempsey is not being appointed to act as a paid consultant or employee of the city. To the contrary, Ufberg and Associates, primarily through Attorney Robert Ufberg, will provide professional legal services to the city as a contractor. Attorney Dempsey is an employee of Uffberg and Associates. Accordingly, it is my opinion that there is no violation of Section 307 of the Home Rule Charter with regard to this resolution appointing Uffberg and Associates as the city's labor solicitor. With that said, in order to address any potential concerns with regard to this appointment, Uffberg and Associates has voluntarily agreed to the following conditions. First, Attorney Dempsey will not share with Attorney Uffberg or other members of his firm any confidential, non-public information relating to the city that she obtained through the course of her appointment to City Council. Second, Attorney Dempsey will not appear on behalf of the city on any labor or employment matter or supervise or otherwise have responsibility for the overall implementation and administration of Uffberg and Associates' contract with the city for 1 year after the expiration of her appointment to City Council. And lastly, Attorney Dempsey's compensation will not be altered as a direct result of Uffberg Associates' engagement by the City of Scranton. So I believe that was the second issue which you raised, Councilman Gaughton, relating to this resolution.
Okay. And there was a letter sent by Attorney Uffberg to the city solicitor, Jessica Askra, and our council solicitor, Kevin Hayes. I am going to ask that this be made a part of the record. We did just receive this earlier today. So I'm going to ask that this be made part of the record in third order next week, Mrs. Reed. And in terms of the issues that I brought up, both the disclosures that were provided in third order tonight that's on our agenda and this letter with the assurances given by Attorney Uffberg, I am comfortable with those, so I'll be voting yes. Anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption. Resolution number 21, 2020, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to enter into a loan-to-grant agreement and make a loan grant from the city of Scranton's Business and Industry Loan-to-Grant Program. Project number is noted in an amount not to exceed $70,000 to Fancy Parsley LLC to assist an eligible project.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
Yes, as chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted. Before we adjourn the meeting tonight, I failed to mention, this was at the end of my notes here, and I missed it. We did receive another update on the gas card audit. 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Reed had sent a request on my behalf to Mr. Moretti that when the gas card audit was complete, that we schedule a public caucus where he would present his findings. Mr. Moretti did reply to Mrs. Reed on Wednesday, February 19th, that he would be available to meet anytime at the council's convenience. The data has been analyzed, and he does have some questions before he finalizes his report. He anticipates meeting with John Murray and the administration at their earliest convenience. He'll be able to give council a more specific time frame as soon as he is confident that he has all the information that he needs, and he will be in touch with us at some point next week. So just wanted to make sure I got that on the record. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night.